Okay. Okay, Daniel, did you finish notes number one?
Uh,
Pardon me, what you said?
yes,
We finished all the notes number one.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Okay, then this week we move on to notes number two. Okay, so notes number two, yeah, basically in notes number two, we will build a so-called ASAD model. So ASAD model is what determined by ASAD. ASAD model means aggregate supply, aggregate demand model. Okay, so for short, we'll just call this model as ASAD model. Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's very similar compared with the supply and demand model we learned in microeconomics. Yeah, but pretty much similar, but there are some differences between these two models. We will learn. Yeah, we will discuss some differences between supply and demand model and the ASD model. But first part is but the first thing I want to see is that I need to send the notes again. Send notes number two again. But I want to see the purpose, the goal of building a so-called AICD model is to explain very important macroeconomics phenomena. It's called a business cycle. It's a business cycle. So what do I mean by business cycle? So as you can see, you got a graph here. So basically, it's use XY plane. You can see the horizontal actually is the time. This is the timeline. And we use the horizontal axis to represent the GDP growth rate. Okay, GDP growth rate. So you got a straight line here. So that is straight line is a long, this in black, a straight line. So this is a straight line, upward sloping, and this for sure is upward sloping curve. So this upward sloping curve indicating, representing, okay, long run. Okay, if I be more specific about the time. So after the Second World War, the Western major economies, I mean, their long run economic growth rate actually is super slow. So why is it super slow? Actually, it's 2%. This a long run, averagely speaking, this a long run GDP growth rate. I mean, annually rate, okay? Annually rate, not a monthly rate. Its annually rate is 2%. So this countries the long run averagely speaking, every year their real GDP only increased by 2%. Okay, so we just draw this a slightly upward sloping curve, okay, indicating the GDP growth rate roughly is 2%. But I guess you guys know what do I mean by average, right? If you say the average growth rate is 2%. This does not mean that the growth rate every year is 2%. These are totally two different things. So if we see this blue line, this is a blue line is a kind of if we connect all the annual growth rate, those data points together, we get this blue line. So you see this blue line for this data points. So how to say the GDP experiences like fluctuations. There are some fluctuations in aggregate economic activities. I mean, what do I mean by fluctuation? Okay, for some year GDP increases, or we can say the GDP growth rate is higher than 2%. Okay, so we call this a period. Okay, during which the GDP increases are higher than faster than 2% as an expansionary time. What do I mean by expansion? Expansion means the GDP kind of is increasing. Okay, so after this peak, okay, peak just means the highest point. After this highest point, okay, GDP begins to start to decrease. We call this this time interval. Okay, when the GDP decreases is called a recessionary time. After this recessionary time, okay, once let's repeat this again, and we got another expansionary time. Okay, after this expansionary time, after this peak, we got another recessionary time. And overall speaking, we call these things as a business cycle. Business cycle basically refers to, oh, there are some fluctuations like this ups and down. Okay, in the overall economic activities, we call these things as a business cycle. So let's turn to next page. Now you can feel the definition of a business cycle. And all economies, all the countries, all nations, okay, kind of like they must experience these fluctuations in aggregate economic activities, ups and downs, ups and downs. And we call this as a business cycle. And totally in this graph, we got two business cycles, right? Because one expansion plus another recession together is called a business cycle. So expansion, recession, expansion, recession. So in this graph, we have two business cycles. Okay, we got two business cycles. And the third thing, we don't have a so-called a schedule for business cycles. Okay, no human beings, okay, even economists, no human beings, no government really can regulate how long is a business cycle. We don't have such a situation, a regulation. Okay, we don't have a regulation saying, oh, one business cycle must last 3 years. One business cycle must last like 10 years or 5 years. We don't have such a regulation. Okay, business cycle totally kind of is a recurrent. Okay, so how long is the business cycle? Totally depends on the real data we collected from the real business world. Okay, so no human beings, okay? No one can see a business cycle must last 10 years. So we don't have such a kind of regulation or theory. Okay, to see that how long is the business cycle really depends on the real data we collected from the real economic system. Okay, so this is a kind of business cycle, kind of the real thing. Yeah, what we find from the based on the real data we collected the real business one. Okay, and the next step you need to try to understand the business cycle. There's a big fluctuations. There's a bigger fluctuations that actually is a bad thing. Okay, if there's a fluctuations, it's a too big. Okay, fluctuations, the business okay, actually means actually is something bad. Why is the case? Why is the business cycles bad? Because if the fluctuation are too big, that means something called uncertainty. Uncertainty. In the field of economics, as a human beings, we don't like uncertainty. Okay, instead of uncertainty, we prefer to something, we like something called certainty. So let's have an example here. So what is called certainty? Okay, for example, imagine you want to build up your own business. For example, a bubble tea store. Just use my bubble tea store example as an example. Okay, if you want to start up your bubble tea store business, if someone can tell you, okay, don't be worried. Your business just get started. Okay, your business revenue will increase by 10% every year. Your customer will always continuously increases. If someone can tell you about this, okay, you kind of got something called a certainty. You will be very happy with certainty. Okay, if somebody tell you about this, right? If you're sure about, oh, your business will get better and better. your revenue will increase by 10%, 10%, 10% every year. You kind of have a peace in your mind. So you can understand the certainty is a good thing, really is a good thing. Just like this black line, like a long run, like this trend, like every year your business can increase by 2%, 10%, 5%. Okay, so this is called certainty, but this isn't the real life, right? Isn't real life. This is not very realistic. The real life is okay due to the reason for some years. Okay, for some years, okay, your business can be better and better. Your revenue increases here. Okay, during this expansionary time. Okay, but for some like kind of a bad years, okay, due to COVID-19, okay, due to financial crisis, okay, due to whatever reason, maybe your business is not very good. You see your business revenue kind of the declining. So this is so you can understand this fluctuations means uncertainty, and we don't like uncertainty. Okay, especially especially you don't like this recession right now. Okay, so what we want to do, one central idea, another most important thing we want to do in the macroeconomics, we want to stabilize the economy. We want to smooth out these business cycles. So what do I mean by smooth out? We don't like these big fluctuations. Okay, we want to make these fluctuations kind of not very extreme. Like we want to kind of smooth out. Okay, make these fluctuations smaller. If we cannot see, if we can animate all the fluctuations, but we want to make these fluctuations smaller. So this is called smoothing out the business cycle. Okay, but to do that, the first step we need to figure out why those fluctuations we must experience these fluctuations. We need to figure out why for some years during some time, what kind of factors that can increase GDP and what other factors that can lower the GDP, decrease GDP. Once we can figure out those factors, those reasons, then we can understand why we have these fluctuations and the business cycle. Okay. Back to 1930s. Okay, back to 1930s, roughly 100 years ago. Okay, back to then. Okay, no economist knew that. Okay, what has those reasons why we have business cycle, but different people have a different idea. Okay, different kind of economists. If you heard about this in the field of macroeconomics, we have so-called different schools of thought. So school of thought kind of refers to different, how to say, the group of different economists. We distinguish the different groups of economy based on their ideology, based on their kind of idea, based on their understanding about regarding why we have these fluctuations of business cycle. The first group of economists can be called as a classical theory. Okay, classical economists. So let's see how they understand why we experience these fluctuations in the business cycle. So the central idea, so the representing idea of classical theory is about the seesaw law. So let's see the definition of what is the seesaw law. Let's see how this group of economists, okay, how they understand about the reason why we have a business cycle. So let's see the definition. What it said is supply can create their own demand. Supply can create its own demand. So if something can be produced within country, okay, if some production activities can be occurred within a country, if in your country somebody are willing to produce something, if a production can be happening within a country, then these production activities really can generate some really can generate income. Okay, and once the people make money, they will spend all their money. They made from all kinds of all the production activities that happened in your country. So by seeing this, okay, classical economists they try to prove something called supply always equal to demand. This is what a classical theory really about. Okay, they try to prove that the supply always equal to demand and demand always equals to supply. So let's have an example here. Okay, why they can say supply always equals to demand and the demand will always equal to supply. So last week, not last week, if this is the week before last week, okay, during the first lecture, the notes number 1 of macroeconomics, we learned about how to use income approach to calculating GDP, right? To estimate GDP. So what is income approach? If we add up everybody's income, all Canadians' income, all the money made by Canadians together, should be very close, should be a good estimation of the Canadian GDP, right? So what was the example again? So my example is, okay, once again, I'm a producer, I have my own business, I'm running a kind of a factory where I produce like a toaster, and the price of my toaster is really cheap, $20. By selling a toaster, okay, I can make $20. I receive $20 from customers. Okay, for each unit I produce, for each unit I can sell. But I need to pay cost, all different kinds of costs. Okay, for example, I pay $6 to human resources because I need to hire workers. I hire workers, so $6 average speaking. Human resource cost is $6 per unit. Okay, I also pay $3 to those people who give me the raw materials. $3 for each unit. I also pay $1. Average speaking, I pay $1 to my landlord because I'm renting a building, yeah, to do the production. Assuming I only use these 3 resources, okay, so the remaining $10 is my personal income. So what we learned from this story is we can break down the price, like in this example, is $20 into different numbers. And all these numbers actually mean an income made by different people who involved in this production process, who contributed to something, production factors, resources, yeah, into my business, for my business, for my production. And I can make $10. Landlord can make $1. The people who supply the raw materials can make $3. So the employees, workers, okay, they can produce $6. You see, we add up everybody's income together, must be equal to the price. Okay, this is the first step. So basically, the central idea is in the first step is the people made money here. Okay, if the production happening here, so different people made money. And everybody's income together, add them together as $20. Okay, the second step, think about that. Okay, why people want to make money? So the answer is ultimately you want to spend all the money you made. Right? Why everybody try to make money? Because you want to buy something. Buy whatever you want. Goods and services, delicious food, the clothes, blah blah, accommodation, luxury car, whatever you want. Okay, that is ultimately you want to spend all this money. So if people make $20, ultimately, yeah, ultimately speaking, based on classical theory, people will spend $20. Everybody made $20 and everybody finally will spend $50. Okay, by seeing this, now you can understand, okay, from a classical theory perspective, so supply always equal to demand curve. Okay, that is this is called a classical theory. They try to once again to produce a supply always equal to demand. So based on classical theory, so demand side of the market kind of the less important, but the supply side of the market is more important. If we can produce something, we can supply something. This is a production, this is supply. This is kind of a production can generate income. Who for those people who did the production. Okay, and one more thing, in long run, yeah, how many goods and services it can be produced within country. In long run, they determined by two things. Okay, determined by two things. The two factors. Okay, the first one is called resource, and another one is called technology. So overall, so we can sounds like very reasonable, right? So people make money, ultimately they will spend all this money. So seems very reasonable, but turns out, classical theory finally kind of is wrong. Yeah, kind of is wrong. Because in the year of 1922, something happened in the United States as a history. They called it the Great Depression. The Great Depression is the first global financial crisis happened in the year of 1922 and was the first major global economic crisis, financial crisis that happened in human history. So during the Great Depression, GDP decreases really by a lot. Yeah, you guys also will learn this during US history classes. Okay, you will learn about the history of a Great Depression. Basically, the so-called economic crisis. Okay, back then the GDP really decreases really by a lot. But based on the classical theory, GDP is kind of solely determined by the supply. And the supply also determined by resources and technology. So based on classical theory, if GDP decreases, okay, that must be caused by either declining resources, either declining technology. Okay, but the truth is, we never had a decline in resource and technology in the 1930s. So it turns out the economic theories are wrong. So my question for you guys is why? Why the classical theories are wrong? Why, overall speaking, what is a kind of the drawback of a classical theory? So the answer is the time span. It's about the time span. So based on classical theory, the time span, the classical economists, they are just considered a single time period problem. Okay, if you think about this, if you think, okay, we only live once, okay, before you die, you should spend all your money. You see, you only live once. Okay, if you are thinking about, oh, we only live once, so before you die, we should spend all the money we made. That's a kind of a wrong. That's a kind of right. So if you are consider a single time period, classical theories are wrong. But this kind of assumption is not very isn't very realistic. Be more realistic. You should you not only live once, you live in Vancouver, for example, you will live in Vancouver for 80 years. That is a difference. You should consider a multiple time periods problem. Okay, if you are thinking about it, okay, we don't live once, we live here like for 80 years. So in such a case, okay, supply demand curve does not always equal to supply. Because we need to do savings for future spending. People save their part of the current income for the future spending. For the future, maybe retirement or just saving money for your children, whatever the reason, people save their part of the current income for the future consumption. Okay, so in this case, okay, this year everybody made $20 a year. Maybe they only spend $16. You see, people only consume $16. So they save $4 for the future spending. So in such a case, okay, total supply like a GDP is at $20, but people only spend like $16. You see 20 greater than 16. So based on this case, okay, supply doesn't always equal to demand. So what I said later basically is called a Keynesian economic theory. Okay, Keynesian economic theory. So what is a Keynesian economic theory? So let's say turn to page number 3. So in this box, okay, let's build a very basic model. It's a but it's a very useful in the macroeconomics. It's called the AICD model. Okay, once we build this AICD model, then you can better understand like why classical theory is so wrong. Okay, why the supply does not always equal to demand. Okay, and you can also understand like the true reason why we had Great Recession, okay, during 1920s. Okay, actually the reason is the lackage of the AD. Okay, is the AD is too small. AD is lower than the normal level. This is a real reason why we had the Great Depression in the year of 1929. So still we need to have a XY plane here. Just like what we did in macroeconomics, and we label the horizontal line, but this time we label the horizontal line by real GDP. We no longer label this one by Q, but in the first lecture, in the first, in notes number 1, we learned in macroeconomics, quantity produced can be measured by real GDP. So we label this one by real GDP. Okay, this one's called the price level. One major difference between AICD model and the supply demand model is in supply demand model, we only add 2 different curves. Okay, supply curves and demand curves. Okay, but now in macroeconomics, we have in this model, we have 3 different curves. Why 3 curves? Because we got a long run version of a supply curve. So we label this one by long run index. We label this one by short run index. And this one's AD. The intersection of long run S and the horizontal line is called a potential GDP. So potential GDP can be labeled by YF. And once again, YF is called potential GDP. But the potential GDP based on the classical theory only determined by resources, resource engagement, resources and technology. Only determined by resources and technology in long run, like how many units, how many different things we can produce with here in Canada only depends on how much resources we have, the type of resources we have here, and the technology. So by seeing this, that means the long run ASI has no relationship with the price level. Okay, so the long run ASI is the vertical curve. And the short run AS, short run AS still says that within shorter period of time, the aggregate supply curve still is a positive sloping curve. Okay, still is a positive sloping curve. So simply speaking, okay, producers want to make more money. Okay, because they want to make money. Okay, when the price level increases, they try to produce more. Right? When the price level increases, they try to supply more, produce more. So you can understand short-term AS is a positive sloping curve. And the demand curve, aggregate demand curve is a downward sloping curve. Well, by the way, aggregate. Okay, aggregate means we include all kinds of resources, all the products and services. We include all the things. Yeah, either goods or services we produce here in Canada into this model. So macroeconomics, so supply curve and demand curve in macroeconomics is about a particular single product, like apple, like a bubble tea, like orange. Okay, but in macroeconomics, we no longer need to tell the difference, no longer need to tell the difference of what kind of thing we are producing. Okay, we already include everything. As long as the goods and the services are produced within Canada, we already include everything into this model. Okay, so we call this as an aggregate supply and aggregate demand model. And once we build this model, now we can use this model to analyze this. Why, to figure out what kind of factors can increase the GDP, can lower the GDP. So let's say do our first example here. But in the first box here, we kind of separate our short-run analysis and the long-run analysis. So I mean, so you need to build two models here, two graphs here. So for the left-hand side, you only add the short-run AS here and AD. But for the long-run analysis, you only add the long-run AS here and AD here. Okay, and we need to have all these necessary labels. Okay, so this one's called short run AS, this one's AD. Okay, this one's a long run AS. So still the horizontal line is a real GDP. This one is a real GDP. So the vertical one is the price level. Okay, so what happened here? So if we increase it, if we have a better technology, we have better technology, better productivity, so you can easily understand. So technology and productivity is a factor really influences the supply side of the market. And because we have better technology, producers should be like they can produce more. So we shift both short-term AS. So we shift both the short-term AS and the long AS to the right. Because we can produce more. Okay, more means we should shift them to right. So now you can get another different market equilibrium and you compare these two market equilibriums. Then you can analyze how those are very important three indicators, statistical numbers has been changed. So the inflation rate here decreases, okay, GDP here increases. But one problem you have noticed here is we only got the three like axis, like horizontal line, vertical line. We don't have the third line to represent on the right. But it turns out that actually we don't need one. We don't need one. But always remember this, unemployment rate has inverse relationship with the GDP. When GDP increases, generally speaking, producers they need to hire more workers, human resources to do the production. So if GDP increases, unemployment rate decrease. Okay, by contrast, when GDP decreases, unemployment rate will increase. Okay, so this one is a E number one, this one is a E number two. Okay, this one is a E number one, this one is E number two. So on the right hand side, yeah, GDP increases and rate decreases, and price level decreases. And so this is case number one. And then you can fill these blanks. This time we got the same result, yeah, from both the short run and long run analysis. As I check again, GDP increases, unemployment rate decreases. O typo here. The price level here it decrease, not increase. Okay, the second thing we still kind of separate the short run and long run analysis. So left hand side is for once again short run analysis, and the right hand side is the long run analysis. Short run analysis is a short run AS. Okay, by applying the supply short run AS curve is the upward sloping curve. So AD is here. So long run AS is here. AD is here. So short run AS and AD. So long run AS AD. Okay, but you still need to add like real GDP here, real GDP here, price level. But this time what happened here is the decreased consumer confidence. So decreased consumer confidence, basically means the consumers as the public don't have any confidence about future Canadian's future economy. So people may think, okay, in the near future, okay, maybe due to COVID-19, maybe due to a terrorism reason, so the Canadian economy will decrease. So people's overall income will decrease. Okay, if people don't have a strong confidence, if you think the future economy will decrease, if you think the future income will decrease, so what's your response? So naturally, we will reduce the money we spend, we reduce the consumption, we reduce the investment. So if we do this, we just shift AD to left. Because the demand side is declining, the demand side is decreasing. Okay, if you think the future income is a decrease. Okay, if you think the overall the macro environment is a kind of is a declining, it's getting worse and worse. Okay, so due to this, the future your future income will also be decrease. So you save a bigger proportion. So you will save a bigger proportion of your current income for the future retirement, for the future maybe save money for your children, whatever the reason you want to save bigger proportion of your current income. So we shift AD to left. And so GDP this time, short-term GDP is decreasing, so long-term rate is increasing. Price level is decreasing. On the right-hand side, we also shift AD to left. Okay, so price level decreases. But you see the potential GDP remain unchanged. But once again, the potential GDP determined by resource and the technology. So consumer confidence has no relationship with the resource and the technology. So the long run answer remain unchanged. So let's check how I filled the blanks here. So short run, so real GDP, this one should be decrease and rate increase. The general price level has been lower. In long run, real GDP remain unchanged. So if a real GDP in long run remain unchanged, so this one also remain unchanged. General price level has been lowered. So the third example is a most important example to this lecture. So in third example, we kind of combine the short run and the long run analysis together. So from the third box, we no longer need to do two different graphs. Okay, instead of that, we just combine them together. We just need to have one graph. And we put the three curves together. So once again, long run axis here, short run axis here, and the And we add the label long run AS, short run AS, maybe whatever here. So what happened here is called a tax cap. So basically, due to the reason, we don't need to specify what actually the reason is, but actually, so that is what happened here, tax cap. Okay, so basically the government lowers the tax. Yeah, basically the government lowers the tax for the uh lowers the average tax rate, yeah, for personal income, for holding a property, for owning a house, yeah, whatever. We don't need to specify. We don't need to specify what kind of the tax here, but we just lower down the general the average tax rate for everything. So during such a situation, people residents in your country, they get more money left on their head, right? They get more money left on their head. If they don't need to pay as much as the tax they usually pay to, they need to pay to government. So they have more money left on their hand. Okay. So maybe they spend more, consume more, invest more money. So this time shifting it into right. So we shift it into right. Okay, so you got a equilibrium called E number 2. And we just do a compare thing here. We just compare E number 1, E number 2. So you can figure out what is happening. So what is happening is from E number 1 to E number 2, real GDP increases. If real GDP increases, as I mentioned, unemployment rate always has inverse relationship with the real GDP. So unemployment rate decreases. General price level increases. Yeah, this is what happened here. So if the people demand more, consume more, invest more, graphically will shift it to the right. Okay, so we got these 3 conclusions regarding how the indicator, how the performance indicator have been changed. But try to remember this, okay? A short-run GDP, if it's a short-run GDP, so why this one can be cut only can be cut as a short-run GDP? Because of this intersection isn't an intersection of all 3 curves. So this one only is a short-run GDP. Remember this, okay? Short-run GDP cannot last very long. Okay, that is why we call this one as a short-run GDP. Okay, only can be happen, only can be lasted like during a shorter period of time. Okay, through some kind of a channel, okay, through by some means, okay, this short-run GDP will go back to the normal. Okay, we will go back to the normal. So how you analyze this? Okay, this short-run GDP can go back to the long-run GDP. So let me show you guys. Basically, I already write down here. Put the answer here. You just basically use a full sentences. Use a full sentence to organize all the information you got from here. Okay, to able to analyze this, how you can go from E number 2 to a normal level GDP. So at E number 2, okay, at E number 2, that means when current GDP is higher than potential GDP. The producers are overuse. Overuse resources. And this is the first thing to understand. So first, I say some of you may wonder, right? Because of the potential GDP kind of is already is the maximize the production ability in a country. That is a potential GDP really about. Potential GDP once again, if we use up all the resources with the best technology, the highest level. Okay, the highest like a potential means the highest production level is here. Okay, that is our maximize production ability. But how come this can be happen? Right? But how come even a short-term GDP can be higher than the potential GDP? So the answer actually, that means the okay, that means the producers like the employers they are overusing resources. Because they are overusing resources. So for example, if the resources we discussed here is the labor resources, what do you mean by overusing? You are extending, for example, you are extending the working hours. So for example, normally speaking, if you hire like workers, normally speaking, they should work as 8 hours per day. But as an employer, you just ask them to extend their work hours, maybe from 8 hours to 10 hours to 12 hours. Just by giving them money. But because during such cases, okay, if the demand is higher than the normal level, when the price is increases here, you think this as employer, as a producer, you think this is a good opportunity for you for me. So you want to supply more. So you ask your employees to extend their working hours by giving them, maybe by doubling their wage and salary, to ask them to extend their working hours. Okay, so extending working hours is a good example about how we so-called overuse the resource. Okay, and let's continue from here. So price of resources will increase. So price of resources will increase. And then producers will reduce quantity produced, shifting short of but after the resource price has been reached to a very high level, what will happen? What will happen next step? Like if the price of resources have been reached to a very high level, like all the producers they will reduce, producers will reduce the quantity supply. Because we no longer are able to pay such a very high wage and salary to your employees. Okay, so we shift short from AS to left. This is our final step by shifting short-term answer to left. So this is the E number 3. And what is the reason why we shift the short-term answer to left is here, right? Because of the price of resources. Yeah, already has been reached to a very, very high level. Okay, so by analyzing how the price will change has been changing in the resource market. Once again, by analyzing how the price of resources has been changing in the market, then we can understand why the producers will decrease their quantity produced. So shifting short-term answer to left. By shifting short-term answer to left, so in terms of GDP, you see, the GDP has to go back to this so-called the normal level you should have in your country. Okay, but in terms of the inflation rate, yeah, increases is a little. Yeah, even to an even higher level. Okay, so it's E number 3. And if you compare E number 1 and E number 3, the GDP remains unchanged, that's right. But this one is wrong. Income rate also remain unchanged. If the long run GDP remain unchanged, the income rate also remain unchanged. Remains unchanged. Okay, price level increases. That's right. So finally, what we learned from this story is that tax cut only can stimulate, not simulate, stimulate the economy in the short run. Okay, but has no effects on economic growth in long run. Because we already learned, we mentioned so many times, like long run economic growth, only determined by resource and technology. So it has no relationship with this kind of a short run governmental policy called tax cutting. But it only can stimulate, but only can like increase the inflation rate. Okay, so this is the third case. Okay, the last box pretty much is the same thing, but last box we just do the kind of the opposite direction. In the last box, in the last graph, okay, due to tax cut policy, initially we shift AD to right. But this time, if we shift AD to left, so this is how you can move from the E number 1 to E number 2. And you just compare E number 1 and E number 2. So what happened right now is the GDP is lower than the potential GDP. and the price level has been decreased. So this is called a recession. This is exactly what happened during the Great Depression. Okay, due to AD has been decreased really by a lot. Okay, AD decreases really by a lot. Okay, so we can get in number 2. So we add those labels: long run AS, short run AS, real GDP. Here is the price level. So still the same question: how you can, given no government interventions, so how you can analyze this? I mean, the short run, I said it before, the short run GDP here, the short run equilibrium here, like I cannot last long. Through kind of some kind of a channel, by some means the GDP, you should like normalize the GDP, because the short run GDP, lower level GDP, finally will go back to the potential GDP. Finally will go back to the potential GDP. But how this short-term GDP will go back to the potential GDP? Okay, that is the problem here. How we can go back to the normal level GDP? Once again, you can analyze how the resource price has been changed. How the resource price has been changed. So the answer basically is here. So let me show you how I can use a full sentences to organize this keywords a little bit to explain like why this short-term GDP can go back to the long-term GDP. So you should see when the current GDP is lower than potential GDP. So the number of unemployed labor will increase. So price of labor, price of wage will increase. Okay, so that means the production cost has been lowered. So we can see as a result, producers. So producers will increase their production. Shifting short-term is finally to this time it should be to right because they are producing more. Okay, so we shift short-term yes. Let's change another pattern, maybe right. So finally we shift short-term AS to right. So we label this one by E number 3. Okay. So once again, the most important thing we learn from about two questions is about how we can analyze this, how we can analyze it, how we can like normalize the GDP. Okay, when the current GDP higher than the potential GDP, you need to remember and to understand finally the higher level GDP will go back to the potential level, normal level. Okay, and when the like the current like this graph is about when the current GDP like E number two is lower than the potential GDP. Okay, for example, the left hand side of this vertical non-rounded S, that means this means your current GDP is very low. So you can get a higher level GDP, lower level GDP, but finally we need to like normalize the GDP. Higher level is a better thing, kind of. The lower level is a better thing. Well, because we want to, at the beginning of this lecture, what I said is we want to smooth out the business circle. So we don't like the higher level GDP, and also we don't like the lower level GDP. So what we want to do here, we want to make the short-run GDP be as much as possible to closer the potential GDP, be closer to the potential GDP. But this week, okay, given no government intervention, okay, last week we will learn fiscal policy, monetary policy. But this week we start all these kind of policies. Okay, really the key idea we need to learn here is the how you analyze this, how you can go back to the potential GDP from E number two. So once again, the answer is here. Okay, you need to analyze this. Okay, how the price of resources has been changed. Okay, and this is a kind of a price signal. Really can coordinate, really can change producers' behavior. So when the price of resources is very high, producers will reduce the production. They kind of in this case, when the current GDP is lower than potential GDP, okay, that means the price of resources currently must be very low. Okay, if the production cost is very low, the producers will reduce, not reduce, the producers will increase their supply again. So graphically, we can shift the short-term asset to left. So finally reach to this E number three. If no questions, let's see like how the test you can solve this. So let's say doing practical questions here. Okay, so give you guys a 10 minutes. Let's try to finish. Try to finish. Okay, here. So the country's name 2019. The country's name is called Ireland. Okay, let's just finish question number A and B here. Okay. Okay, so let's do question number one together. So question number one. So for question number one, you just need to build the ASCT model for this country called Ireland. So label this one by real GDP again. The horizontalize price level. You need to have ever long run as, short run as, and AD. Oh, but the current GDP is operating above the film implement. We just shift our AD to right a little bit. We add three levels: long run AS, short run AS, and AD. So we label the full amping output. Full amping output is a potential GDP by YF, and this one by Y number one, and this one by price level number one. This is a question A. So question B, assume the central bank and government. So in intersections, we talk about who is the central bank. So basically no governmental policy here. So how we can so-called close the output gap. So close the output gap means how we can normalize the GDP. So during lecture, we mentioned this kind of a short-term GDP here cannot last very long. So finally, ultimately, this a higher level short-term GDP. By some means, we'll go back to the potential level GDP. So today we learned, okay, in order to go back to the potential level GDP, you need to analyze how the resource price will change in labor market. So that is a B number one. So when the C, cause need to explain, right? B number two to explain. So when current GDP is higher than potential GDP, when current GDP is higher than potential GDP. The number of resources and the unallocated resources should be equals zero. We reduce the quantity supplied graphically, so it finally shifts shorter run ends to left. And that is a high do B number two, high explain. One final, let's add one more, one final step. So let's shift short run ends to left. Shift short run ends to left. Okay, so you can go back to this normal level GDP. Okay, this is the question in. Any questions? Exactly the same thing as we did during our lecture. And one more time, because the most important thing is you need to be able to do B number two, to be able to explain like how you can normalize your GDP level, because your current GDP is higher than the potential GDP. Because if we turn to another question here, very similar. Because this one, the country's name is called Canada. So you can have a look here and think about how we can do B number one. B number one. So this one question pretty much is the same thing. We just do this one kind of with an opposite way. So the last question is about the current GDP is higher than the potential GDP. But this one, Canada now is in a recession. Because you can see the keyword is called the recession. So this time we just make sure the short-term GDP is on the left-hand side of your normal index. So this one is so this one is y number one, and then this one is y. And the potential GDP y is okay. So we label this one by PL. Okay, this is the question A. Okay, so question B. Once again, how you can normalize the GDP, how you can make sure this short-term GDP can go back to the normal level. So what I do here, I just paste what I did for the last question. I just change a little bit when current GDP, so we just change higher to lower the potential GDP. The number of employed resources. For this case, it's not a decrease or the increases. So price of resources will not increase but decrease. Will decrease. Producers will reduce, increase. Quantity supplied, shifting to left to right. Okay, then the final step, we just shift the short-term answer to left, to right. Okay, so you can make your lower level current GDP back to this potential GDP. And if you do that, the price level will also decrease. Okay, so this is for this week. And from next week, we will learn kind of another way. It's called fiscal policy to, once again, to normalize the GDP. Okay, but this week, okay, given no policies. So these two graphs together is called automatic adjustment. So recall this week we didn't mention any kind of a policy, but from next week, we will do something called fiscal policy. Basically means the government will do something. Okay, to kind of to speed up this recovery process. They can also do something by demonstrate by changing tax rate, by adjusting government expenditure. Government as a government, they also can either increase the GDP or lower the GDP in order to normalize the GDP. Okay, but we will do that next week. If no questions, that's it.
I'm all good.
Need to see the answer you said. Any other questions?
No questions for me.
Okay.
Bye bye，提生。